And welcome back to another Wednesday edition of 705 Sports, The Headlines. We have a lot to cover today, so let's just dive right in. We're going to start with the Sault Greyhounds. Now, the Greyhounds last week suffered a major loss in Tanner Dickinson. There is no timeline on Dickinson and when he'll be back on the ice, but we're not expecting him back anytime soon. And as you can see, he's having a really strong year this year of 18 goals, 29 assists, and 47 points. To put in perspective, comparing that to last season, he already has more points than he did last season in less games. Dickinson is amongst the leaders in this team in points, and he is a very, very big loss for this team. And they're going to have to start trying to win without him this week on a 4-game road trip. This 4-game road trip is a huge test for the Greyhounds, as these games are really important because the Hounds don't want to fall in the standings. They're currently sitting first in the West, and they want to really stay first in the West. So when we look at this, they're playing North Bay on Thursday and Friday, and then Sudbury on Sunday and Tuesday, all on the road. So they're going to be away from the GFL for a little bit. There will be fans in attendance for these games, as now we are permitted to have 500 fans in the building. If you want more on that, I did write an article about some of the confusion on that, so head on over to Sue Online about that. But this is an important stretch for the Greyhounds. I think on this road trip, they really want to win at least 3 of them. They need to keep pace and continue to stay above teams like London, because let's just be honest, London is a very, very good team, and the Greyhounds want home ice advantage for as long as physically possible going into the playoffs. And like Dan and I talked about last week, we're in a stretch of games where the Hounds are playing teams that are much lower than them in the standings. So this is a chance for them to really build momentum, try to get these wins, and continue to make some space in the standings as they hold on to first. But now let's move from junior hockey to the National Hockey League, and let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Toronto Maple Leafs decided this week that the lines that they were trying were not working, so they've gone back to the original lines, their quote-unquote optimal lineup. We have a graphic that's going to come up on your screen. And when we look here, we're back with Bunting, Matthews, Marner, Kerfoot, Tavares, Nylander, Mikheyev, Kemp, Cash, Enval, Spezza, Simmons. The defense is still missing Jake Muzzin, and we saw some issues with that over the last 2 games on Monday and Tuesday. The defense is still struggling, but the offense seems to be rolling. Jack Campbell got out of his slump the last game and started to play a lot better. But when we look at these lines, I think the Leafs are still looking to try to figure out maybe if there's someone they can trade. Like, we still could potentially see a Kerfoot gone or an Enval to make room for a top-tier defenseman, because that's the one piece the Leafs are still missing. This team can score. This team has the goaltending, but they're still missing another good defenseman. I'd say the Leafs have 3 solid defensemen in Riley, Brody, and Muzzin. And without Muzzin right now, it's just the 2. So the Leafs definitely are still looking to improve on that. And I mean, yes, they can score themselves out of trouble, as we saw in the comeback win against New Jersey on Monday, and then the huge 7-1 win against New Jersey last night, which was their last game going into the All-Star break. Which, a good way to end going into the All-Star break. Again, Jack Campbell started to look really solid. But when we look at those lines, I think the forward group is pretty much where they want it. It's the defense group that they really need to try to plug some holes. And they're going to need to do that on a very tight salary cap, which is definitely a struggle for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as realistically it's been ever since this core 4 era of Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner. But now let's move off the Toronto Maple Leafs, but still sticking with the NHL. Carey Price spoke with the media for the first time since entering rehab and entering the Players' Assistance Program and all that stuff. And he spoke with media about his future with the Montreal Canadiens, and we have a clip of that.
I haven't made any plans to do so. Me and my family are very happy here. We're settled in. This is our home. There's a reason I signed the contract like I did here with a no movement contract, with a no movement clause, was to be here. So as of right now, I have no plans to move anywhere.
So hearing that clip, it definitely sounds like Carey Price does not want to leave Montreal. Montreal is trying to move some pieces around to start the rebuild, but it sounds like Carey Price will not be part of that movement. Also in that media statement, he did also speak on about how he is hoping to still play this season. I'm still 50-50 if he's going to play this season. I'm sorry, Montreal fans, this season's a write-off for you. But now let's move off the ice and over to the football field. The 44-year-old man finally retired. Tom Brady will no longer be playing in the NFL. He has decided to retire. He's had a fantastic career, however, with 15 Pro Bowls, 7 Super Bowls, throwing for over 84,000 career passing yards. Don't get me wrong, there was still a lot of controversy around Brady back during the scandals with Deflategate, and then when the Patriots were allegedly stealing the other team's playbooks or bugging the dressing rooms. But at the end of the day, Brady will still be known as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He went on Twitter saying, "I have always believed that the sport of football is a quote-unquote all-win proposition. If 100% competitive commitment isn't there, you won't succeed. And success, as I love so much our game. There's physical, mental, and emotional challenges every single day that allow me to maximize my highest potential." So I think what he's basically saying is he just feels like he's not 100% into the sport at this moment, so he needs to step away. Now, I'm going to give my own opinion a little bit here. Our weather specialist, Craig Huckerby, and I were talking about this yesterday. Don't be surprised if Tom Brady takes a year off, then comes right back. Kind of like, maybe a Mario Lemieux situation or a Jaromir Jagr. But let's move off Tom Brady and go to where the real focus should be in the NFL playoffs. So we have a graphic that's going to go over the last 2 games in the NFL playoffs, and they were, again, some outstanding games. The biggest surprise was, although I have that graphic, let's flip those numbers around. It was actually the Bengals who were able to beat the Chiefs 27-24. And then the Rams beat the 49ers 20-17. And our game of the week in that one was definitely the Chiefs versus the Bengals. What was insane about this game was the Chiefs were up 21-3. I thought this game was over, to be completely honest with you. I almost turned off the TV, and I'm like, no, come on, you never know. Next thing you know, Bengals storm back, push it to overtime. Mahomes throws that terrible interception, and I mean terrible. I think Patrick Mahomes played some of the worst football he has played in his entire career in that second half of that overtime. I don't know what the heck happened to him. I even wonder if this is going to bring him down a peg, because I personally think he was getting a bit cocky and overconfident. So the Bengals were able to pull off an unbelievable comeback, and as they kept putting on their Facebook, this is why you draft a field goal kicker, because their field goal kicker was able to seal the deal and get them the win in overtime. And I will say, I am just very thankful this game was not decided on a coin toss, because it did go in overtime again. The Chiefs won the coin toss again, but the Bengals were able to get the defense that they needed. I don't know what went on with Mahomes, but we're going to break down more about that on the Friday's edition of the show. So last but certainly not least, let's head over to the CFL and talk about the Toronto Argos. The Toronto Argos have decided to bring back McLeod Bethel-Thompson, as Pimbo Clemens says he's a quote-unquote winner. It's a 1-year contract worth $400,000. I'm a little surprised of how much money he's getting, and this is no disrespect to McLeod. He's got a great arm. He did lead the team to the top in the East this last season, but I thought he would have been more in that $300 to $350 range max, maybe even $275,000, not $400,000. So this does make you wonder, what is someone like Jeremiah Masoli going to go for? And same with Trevor Harris. It does open the door that how much money are they going to bring in? But the Argos decided they wanted to stick with McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and McLeod Bethel-Thompson told reporters that he just felt this was the right fit for him, and Pimbo Clemens is bringing in that championship attitude. But that's it for this week's episode of 705 Sports Headlines. Looking for the rest of 705 Sports? Head over to SiouxOnline.com and our video on demand service. You'll see all the episodes of 705 Sports Headlines and 705 Sports. Also, don't forget, we also have the Sioux's only local morning news show. Check that out as well, and that video on demand service, plus all your latest events and all your breaking news. But we will see you Friday. How's it going, everyone? It's Jacob Moore here at the On TV studios, letting you know there's been a slight change to 705 Sports. 705 Sports will now be airing Fridays at noon versus Fridays at 4 p.m. We will still be covering all your local, national, and international sports. The difference is now, while you're enjoying your lunch, you can check out myself, Dan Gray, and multiple different guests as we go over all your sports coverage. So make sure to tune in to 705 Sports Fridays at noon on our Facebook page and video on